What's up, guys? Brady Figueroa coming at you with a review for the new Employed to Serve album Fallen Star, released last week, Friday, April 25th. This is the fifth album now from this British metalcore band who, for my money, kind of separates themselves from the overall modern metalcore sound by just incorporating some more just riffiness. I mean, their riffs in general are a lot more bottom heavy. They take a lot more from groove metal than anything. But the song structures and the breakdowns that this band employs, no pun intended, very much still place this band's sound in the metalcore genre. And they're a band for me that I've always enjoyed, but it's always sounded like they had this kind of latent potential that I was waiting to really see max out, if that makes sense. Like with each of their albums I've listened to, I've kind of left thinking, okay, that was cool, but I think they could do more. I think there's some more potential that we haven't seen yet. So I've kind of just been waiting to see if they will really flesh out that potential. And in addition to their riffing style, which I enjoy, I think frontwoman Justine Jones is a fucking beast on vocals. She's one of a few vocalists, actually, in my opinion, in modern metalcore that prove that frontwomen can do it just as good as frontmen. And that the gender of the vocalist really doesn't mean shit when it comes to the quality of the music, the aggression of the music, and just the songcraft. So I've definitely gone into this album hoping for the very best, hoping to see this latent potential really come to the forefront. And I gotta say, with the first track, Treachery, that opens this album, I was fucking ecstatic. I absolutely love this song. Everything about it is perfect. The biggest reason behind that for me is just the fact that it's just packed with fucking infectious groove after infectious groove. Like, you hit play on the song and you're hit back to back to back with three of the best riffs on the album, period. The first two kind of show the duality of their hardcore influence. The first one being a lot more fast-paced, a little bit thrashy, and then the second one being my personal favorite, maybe on the entire album. I just love how it ascends. It takes on more of that mid-tempo groove, and it just sounds so fucking mean. I love shit like that. And then when they kind of settle into that bouncy verse riff, that's another just super infectious groove that you can't help but just move to. There's also that kind of like pre-chorus section that's a bit more spacious, and you get those like bursts of double bass that sound fucking awesome. The production adds a lot to this as well, so I have to compliment that. Stylistically and sonically, this song is just so explosive, and it's non-stop. The tempo change is fucking awesome too. There's that groovy percussive breakdown, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Love that, and I especially love when it comes back after the tempo change, and it sees the band kind of pull off that bring the riff back in a slower tempo to make it hit harder. They pull that off brilliantly. And then that mean second intro riff, I guess, comes back to close the song. And just, again, I love the way it ascends, and again, hits so much harder when that slower tempo just give it that extra oomph. But the thing about this album is, after this song, there aren't really any other tracks that capture that same energy for me. There's not a single song on this entire album, honestly, that I find to be bad, but there are just some songs that are forgettable entirely, and other songs that have some cool moments, but then there's kind of other moments in that same track that just kind of turn me off from the song as a whole. And the end result is another good album, but an album that doesn't fully, in my opinion, see the band flesh out their full potential. Treachery, that intro track, absolutely does that. I've had it repeating nonstop the entire fucking week. I could see this being one of my absolute favorite songs of the year. But immediately after that, you get into the title track, Fallen Star, which is also a single. And again, this is a good song, but it doesn't maintain that same energy. It does focus a lot more on kind of overall songcraft and some dynamics, having clean vocals, which I will say, the clean vocals on this song, I do think are used really well. They managed to still employ them, again, no pun intended, without using like generic song structures. Those kind of atmospheric verses with those pounding tom drums and the actual screamed vocals sound really good, actually. And it's not until like later in the song when the clean vocals kind of just pop in here and there when they're called upon. And don't get me wrong, this is still a pretty heavy song, but for one, the riffing on this song leaves a little bit to be desired. It's just a lot less memorable than especially in the full album context, Treachery before it. And it just feels like such a drop-off from Treachery in just the overall momentum of it. And I will reinforce that I take album sequencing heavily into account with these reviews. Even though it may be outdated because people just add their favorite songs onto playlists nowadays, I always feel the need to say that. So I guess like this is a good song, but I wish it was somewhere else in the track listing. And then later in the album, you have the track Brother Stand Beside Me, which has a unique place on this album because it does feel a lot more empowering and just powerful overall, and takes on more of a triumphant vibe, which is unique compared to the other songs on here. The riffing is a little bit more straight to the point, but I think it works on a song like this, and there's even like a pretty grand and epic sounding harmonized solo later in the song. And I love that kind of jolting, off-time, and slightly proggy breakdown that comes in at the end. It's one of those like rare parts that is equally memorable for the technicality and the progginess as it is for just the groove it has and just how it makes you want to move. But then in its second stanza, if you want to call it that, the band felt the need to slather on these whoa-oh vocals, which just, frankly, don't need to be there. They sound really unnecessary, especially because you have some added guitar layering underneath them that still progresses that part forward. The whoa-oh vocals themselves, to me, just make the song and that part a bit too oversaturated, and it felt a little bit cheap. And then the track Familiar Pain is one that kind of just feels like filler. It doesn't really feel like it serves much of a unique purpose on this album, which several other tracks do, which I will get into. But I find that the tremolo riffs in this song kind of just meander a little bit, and they don't really have any like memorable note choices. I think some of the note choices just kind of sound a little bit dull. And on the vocal front, I'm not really a fan of when Justine kind of does that like uber clean sounding almost yell. It just sounds a little bit awkward. And then the track that precedes it, actually Breaks Me Down, is definitely my least favorite song on here overall. I find the riffing on this song to just be really, really uninventive and overall pretty forgettable. Like, if you haven't heard this song, and if you were into music theory, I guess, and I told you it was a metalcore song in 6/8 timing, you could probably guess what the riffs on this song sounded like. And I'm also not really into this song lyrically. For one, just the use of breaks me down, it breaks me down, kind of being repeated over and over. I remember when this song was a single, I remember when it first dropped and I listened to it and I heard him say it breaks me down. I'm like, he's going to double down on it, he's going to say it again, and he does. And the line, take another photo for old time's sake, it's hard to take this song serious with lyrics like that. They make the song sound really melodramatic, and again, it kind of derails the energy that Treachery established early on in the album. Aside from that song, though, as you're kind of going to notice, most of my criticisms are going to be pretty nitpicky. I do think overall, though, honestly, all three of the guest features on here leave a little bit to be desired. Overall, Atonement is a cool song. I like the groove it has. It's very catchy. It, again, manages to be heavy and aggressive, yet it has like that kind of fun bounce to it. I also think the drums do a good job in this song of kind of switching up the groove so that that part, which is repeated several times, never really gets that old. But Will Ramos from Lorna Shore appears on this song, and his screams in that second verse sound cool, but I gotta be honest, his clean vocals in this song are not it. Most of them are tolerable, but when he comes in that final chorus, when they're isolated without any music behind them before it really kicks in, I gotta be honest, that made me cringe a little bit. And the other two songs with guest features, honestly, I feel the same about in the sense that they're overall pretty cool songs with cool moments, but the guest features themselves just aren't really used that well. The track Last Laugh is another song that definitely serves a unique purpose on here with its kind of like atmospheric and almost dreamy clean guitars being present throughout the entire track. It really does stand alone on here, and I enjoy the track overall. But I wish that Serena Cherry from Svalbard, who guests on this song, was a bit more utilized, I guess. She kind of just randomly pops in over those clean guitar parts, which, I mean, she sounds good, but why not take that a step further and really flesh that part out? It might have been the case of the band kind of not wanting to go too melodic, but I think in this case, it really would have added a lot to the song, to have just a whole section of that clean guitar part with Serena's vocals. And then the track Whose Side Are You On, which features Jesse Leach of Killswitch Engage, is definitely a song that really intrigued me as a massive Killswitch Engage fan. And I will say some of the melodies in this song are fucking awesome. The guttural vocals in this song are fucking awesome, and I love Jesse's vocals, especially in the bridge. But his clean vocals in that chorus, it's kind of the same issue. I don't feel like they were really fleshed out enough. And in that chorus specifically, from a songwriting standpoint, I feel like that final like send-off note that Jesse ends on with his clean singing, that note itself sounds a little bit flat and dull again. Not a reflection of his performance, but a reflection of the chorus itself and the songwriting. Like just that melody, said and done. That was probably a really bad impression, but it sounds a little bit awkward yet again. But also yet again, it's overall a pretty good song. And as far as the rest of the album, I pretty much have only positive things to say. Like Now Thy Kingdom Come is a really cool track that sees the lead guitar really act as the driving force with it, with some kind of exotic melodies in the intro and some solos that are kind of spliced in. The Renegades has like this sort of melodic and almost folky guitar lick in the intro that actually comes back in the chorus. That sounds really good. And the closing track, From This Day Forward, is probably the only song on here that comes even close to Treachery as far as just the memorability of the riffing. So overall, nitpicky gripes aside and maybe 2 songs I'm not crazy about, this is still a pretty solid album, a pretty good album. Production-wise, it's fucking fantastic. I mean, the drums sound super explosive. The guitar tone is as mean and visceral as ever, especially those more bottom-heavy riffs. The melodic parts absolutely ring and soar. I especially love the clean vocals on here, how they kind of take on more of an atmospheric approach rather than being so front and center and polished. But I still think there's some more potential that this band could utilize. I mean, several of the tracks on here feel like such a unique blend of like Fear Factory and Bring Me the Horizon. And I really can't say that about any other modern metalcore band. This album gets a 21 out of 30 for me. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to hit subscribe for more rock and metal-related content, and comment your thoughts on this album below if you've heard it. Also, check out the description below for my Instagram, Spotify, and Threads links, as well as a Spotify link to my original music. And until next time, thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.